very good morning and a warm welcome. This is Weekend Diary on NTA Channel 5 Ado Ekiti, and we're glad to know you are joining us again on this week's episode of the program. This program happens every Saturday, 9:30 a.m. on NTA Channel 5 Ado Ekiti. I would urge that you please stay tuned, stay with us as we'll take this 1 hour ride on this program, which starts now 9:30 and ends 10:30 this morning. This program, like you know, happens every Saturday. I pray you keep a date. I urge that you keep a date with us every Saturday morning, 9:30 a.m. as we bring issues of interest to the society. And on every episode of this program, we'll bring experts who will talk on the topics, who will provide solutions, who will dissect, who will discuss whatever topic we have chosen to talk about on this program. Today on the program, we're going to be looking at lessons from President Buhari's legacies. At the wake of Sunday morning, the news of the demise of the former president of Nigeria, General Muhammadu Buhari, was everywhere. President Buhari was a man who saw it all, both as a head of state and also a democratically elected president. From his anti-corruption battles to economic struggles, security challenges, and other lofty policies. He came in with a promise to fight corruption, secure the nation, and build the economy. Now the chapter has closed. What are the true takeaways from his time in office? That's going to be the crux of the discussion on the program this morning. Please don't go anywhere. As we take this short break, we'll be right back. Your favorite weekend breakfast show, Weekend Diary on NTA Ado Ekiti, your choice station, is now repackaged, repositioned, and reinvigorated to serve you better. Weekend Diary is informative, educative, and entertaining. It is out to add colors to your weekend. The captivating program comes up every Saturday. Time 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. on NTA Ado Ekiti Channel 5. You can also join us on Start Times Channel 103 or on Facebook NTA Ado Ekiti. For advertisement and sponsorship, please visit the Nigerian Television Authority in Ilawe Road, Ado Ekiti. You can call Samuel on 0706 297 05. Weekend Diary, your ever-pleasing weekend breakfast show. Welcome back from that break. If you just joined us, the program is still Weekend Diary, and we're live from the studios of the NTA Channel 5 Ado Ekiti. You can also join us on YouTube and Facebook. We are live on NTA Ado Ekiti Live on Facebook and also on YouTube. Like we said earlier, we're going to be looking at the lessons from President Buhari's legacies. Just like we heard the news of his demise on Sunday, he has done his part and the chapter is closed. What are the lessons other leaders or aspiring leaders are going to take from his lifestyle and his humility, his being a disciplinarian, or who is someone who is against corruption to the core? I have someone in the studios this morning who is going to be looking at all of the sides of this discussion. My guest on the program this morning is a public affairs analyst, and he's not a new face on this program. He is Asiwaju Oladimeji. It's good to have you again on Weekend Diary.
Good morning. I think it's good to be back here once again.
Yeah.
All right, and I think to start with, let me say condolence to the family of the late president, President Muhammadu Buhari, also to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and to the Nigeria, right?
Yeah.
As a whole. Again, then to the family of the late president, I think I pray that may Almighty Allah grant him eternal rest and peace.
Amen.
Let's leave it at that for now.
Yeah, and console the living. All right, okay. President Buhari died at the age of 82. What's your general impression of the man? You know, he was both the head of state and also a democratically elected president. What's your general impression of his person, his lifestyle?
I think to do a kind of X-ray of his life, I think one we have to do a whole lot of analysis about late President Muhammadu Buhari. If you look at his lifestyle generally, I always use this word. I said he's a man of contradiction. Contradiction in the sense that if you look at his personal life, his private life, and then you also look at it vis-a-vis his life as a public officer, there's a lot of a contradiction. But there's something that you cannot take away from his life. If you look at his lifetime, whether during the military period or when he was aspiring to become the president, and when he eventually became the president of the elected president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you cannot take away the fact that he is a man that has this simple lifestyle. He is not someone that gives into extravagance. He's not someone that believes that you should acquire wealth unnecessarily. I think he's a man that just wants to please God, if I can put it that way. He just wants to do the right thing. He wants to please God, and so that probably by the time he died, he can have this free conscience. Like, see,
I've done my part.
I've done my part. I've remained committed to certain principles of life, of being truthful, of living a simple lifestyle, of living a life of not to be a corrupt person. You know, that's the kind of person he is. And you cannot fault it. In fact, you can question so many things about late President Muhammadu Buhari, but there's one thing you cannot question about his lifestyle. You cannot call him a corrupt person. In fact, whether during the military period or when he served as a minister, or when he served as the PTDF chairman, or when he even became the elected president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you cannot accuse him. Till today, you cannot fault that his lifestyle of not being corrupt. And I think that's something that I think I find fascinating about his lifestyle, considering the fact that he had the opportunity to amass wealth if he wants to do that. He had the opportunity to behave like typical politicians that once you give them the opportunity to serve, the first thing that comes to their mind is to have to amass the entire wealth, buy a house in their hometown, buy another house in Abuja, buy one in Dubai, buy one in Lagos, you know, even the house that they cannot even stay. So you find it quite interesting that someone who was a former governor, don't forget, he was a former governor. Now, not just a former governor, he was a former governor of a state that today, that state now comprises of Adamawa, Borno, Bauchi, I think Yobe. About 4 states at that time. They were all under one state at that time. It was later that they now created so many states there. So imagine you are a former military governor of that kind of large size of a state, And if you also look at some of his contemporaries who had such opportunities, you understand the way and manner they use the opportunity of being governor of such kind of state to amass wealth, to embezzle money. But here is a man, or here was a man who had such opportunity, yet did not think of embezzling money, or thinking of amassing wealth and bringing whether he wants to buy cars and so on and so forth for himself. Another thing you also find interesting is the fact that when he even left as the president of the, after he retired, after he handed over power, he went back to his hometown in Daura. He went back to his hometown in Daura, right? And you find it quite interesting that when he went back to Daura, he was staying in Daura, but his main house is in Kaduna. If you go back to his history, he lived all his life in Kaduna. He based in Kaduna. That was why he was so popular in Kaduna State. So this was the same house he built long time ago. And that same house, he did not even renovate it. Even as a sitting president, he did not renovate the house. He went back to Daura. He took the intervention of this administration to say, hold on, we need to bring this man away from Daura back to Kaduna, but they cannot take him back to the house. It was this administration that now renovated the house in Kaduna for him to now be moved from Daura back to Kaduna. That tells you the kind of person he is. Imagine former president. You see, even if you don't want to steal, by virtue of the fact that a lot of people come to you for one or two things, you could have said, okay, Mr. President, because you intervene on this particular matter, we would like to renovate. I'm sure you will have had those offers. But here is a man that rejected all of those offers. When he was leaving, he said, the same asset that I declared when I became president in 2015, is the same asset that I still have up to today. Even when he died in London, that was not his house. He didn't buy a house in London.
He doesn't own a house in London.
He doesn't own a house in London. He show you all his lifestyle, everything. So that I'm saying that you find that quite surprising when you compare him to his contemporaries or the politicians,
the crop of
that
politicians
that we have. So it is a big lesson for those who are coming behind. He is someone that believes that if he dies today, he knows that he's not going away with anything. So there was no point for him to amass unnecessary wealth for himself. So on that note, he just wants to, do the right thing. He believes that there is no need for him to get to be corrupt or engage in any corrupt practices. He just wants to live that kind of lifestyle, please God, so when he dies, he can face his maker.
Wow. All right, thank you for that in-depth explanation of who you think President Buhari was or is or was.
Yeah, because late now.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a look at his career as the former president. Now, can we look at him as a military officer? What will you say are the important things that stood him out as a military officer?
Even though some of us were not born then, but then we've read literatures,
history,
and we've and again, some of the major, how will I put it? I think some of the major issues that characterize his administration as former head of state, being the military, were also some of the issues that influenced decisions of so many people in 2015 to vote for it.
Okay.
And I will explain why.
Okay.
You will recall that when he became the head of state, that was the regime that dislodged the admission of Shehu Shagari, the former civilian president. And one of the major accusations against that civilian was corruptions, fraudulent electoral practices, and so on and so forth. So he came on board as someone who the military, so that time, believed that has a very strong stance against corrupt practices.
Okay, yeah.
Right? They believe that he's a disciplined man. And don't also forget, prior to that period, he served as minister under General Olusegun Obasanjo when he was minister, I think minister for petroleum. I can't recall. I think he was minister for petroleum.
I think it was under Abacha that
no,
was.
that was PTDF.
Okay.
He was also a former minister. He was a minister under Olusegun Obasanjo when Murtala Mohammed was ascended, when Obasanjo took over. He was a minister.
Okay.
So they understand the kind of person he is. He's a disciplined man. And so when the military took over the admission of Shehu Shagari, they were also looking for someone who has strong that behavioral discipline, someone who has a very strong stance against corrupt practices, who can deal with civilians who are corrupt. You understand? So he came on board, and when he came on board, it was just pretty straightforward. One agenda: clean the entire mess, put an end to corrupt practices, and so on and so forth. And that was what characterized his administration as former head of state. Number one. Number two, you can also not forget today when we talk about the war against the discipline.
Yeah.
That was one of the major hallmark of that particular administration, whereby he wanted to bring discipline to our state, whereby if you go to bank, you should be able to queue. Not that you go to bank, somebody will want to jump on the back, and so he wanted to instill discipline into our society, whereby he did that a disciplined society will definitely give room for meaningful development. If everybody is disciplined, if everybody behaves the way they're supposed to behave, you understand that things will go on. So he had that strong stance against corruption. He wanted to instill discipline. In fact, because of that stance against corruption, you remember this story of Diko that was kidnapped from UK because he wanted him to come and face. Some of the issues allegations they laid against Diko that time.
Okay.
So Diko ran to UK. They had to find a way to kidnap Diko back to Nigeria, and that thing caused diplomatic frictions between Nigeria and UK in that period. That to tell you that that's the kind of person he is. He wanted to ensure that yes, we must do the right thing. If you have done the wrong thing, you should be able to face the full wrath of the law. Let the law take its course. And again, he was able to do some of those stuff that time because he was a military administration whereby there is no this a constitution,
rule of law
that will restrict you or that will limit you. Okay. So that is a matter of decree. Once you make a decree, then it becomes a law, and it just left for you to be. So a lot of civilians, politicians were arrested, were locked. Even I think the former president, Shehu Shagari, was even given as arrest during that period. So he wanted to clean the entire mess and instill corruption. But again, there were also criticism leveled against. But just to let you know what he wanted to achieve, what he believed should be done, and that was what characterized that particular administration during that period. Again, of course, there were economic issues because again, on the economic side of it, there were issues because Nigeria had so many issues with economic recovery. We had so many economic challenges during that period. But in terms of where his heart belonged when it comes to corruption, discipline, you cannot afford that during that particular administration.
Wow. All right, thank you very much. Now that you talked about war against indiscipline, and the example you cited, for instance, we go to a place that we needed to queue because I am so person in the society. Even the people who are attending to us would beckon on you. You are not supposed to be on the queue. Just come to the front, and all of such things. Yeah. Do you think that if such a thing is brought back, that it would be okay? For instance, in discipline, do not drink your sachet water, drop anywhere. Just being disciplined. For instance, when we go to the Western world, these same people who behave in certain way in Nigeria do not behave like they respect themselves, they respect their old ages when they get to that place. So are you saying that, can we put it this way, that because we are not in the military regime, that's why everybody behaves the way they behave, even the things they cannot do in other climes when they go out of this country?
I don't think it's about whether military regime or not. Okay. So the countries you cited, they are not under military rule.
Yes,
they are also under democratic rule. So it's just a function of deterrence, where you are, where the law does not respect anybody.
Okay.
See, one of the major attributes of rule of law is that rule of law is no respect of anybody. Nobody is above the law. Everybody is equal. That reason, if you go to court, you will see a lady blindfolded, right, holding a sword, then having a scale. It means that I'm blindfolded. I don't care who you are. Once I weigh this thing, then I will apply the sword. So it's a function of deterrence. That if I do this, the law will take its course, and the law won't care whether I'm the president, whether I belong this or I belong to that. So, and I think that's one of the major problems when you try to, force discipline. You don't do that, because because we're talking about his lifestyle. What he wanted to do was to use the element of force to instill discipline. You won't achieve what you want to achieve if you want to use the element of force, because when the element of force is not in play, that means that people will go back to the status quo. So it's a function of reorientation of our mindset, of our value. What do we value? How do we value ourselves? What do we value? What do we place value on? How efficient and how effective is the implementation of our laws in such a way that you don't need anybody to use any force before you are meant to do the right thing. In other words, if I go to a bank, I don't need anybody to use any means of force to tell me that I should stay on the queue. Common sense should dictate that I am in the banking hall, I met some people on the queue, I should queue so that I wait for my turn. Right? So, but again, that those were the issues that some people get criticized when he came up with that war against discipline. Yes, it's a lofty idea, but again, the approach is what some people then try to criticize, because again, immediately he was dethroned, immediately there was a coup, and he later everything about war against discipline. But assuming that is a function of systemic orientation that has now become, there's something we call culture, right? If it has become a culture, a cultural thing that we should do this, culture is a way of life. So when you talk about discipline, when you talk about don't be corrupt, it has to be part and parcel of our lifestyle, that I should not do this. It's just like someone who proclaims to be a Christian, or someone who proclaims to be a Muslim. There are certain doctrines that you have been, I don't want to use the word brainwash, but you have been indoctrinated to, and it has become your way of life. And that's sometimes if you wake up in the morning as a Christian, you say, I want to do devotion, I want to pray. It has become a cultural thing. Muslim did that. If you, as a true Muslim, you also have to pray 5 times in a day. So the same thing, if you look at Muhammad, what he wanted to do that time was to instill discipline. But he wanted to do that using the element of force as against being a kind of a cultural thing, right? Orientation, value. Because if you implement certain things with use of force, when you remove force from the equation of things, people will not have any reason. They believe that the only reason they were being compared to stay on the queue was because they are seeing a military soldier. That if I don't stay on the queue, this soldier will beat me. So what if there is no soldier? That means that I will do what I need. And that's the problem that we are still facing today. And that we also notice also, interestingly, anytime you find that there's something, maybe you are driving, there is queue, maybe you just see all of a sudden there is traffic, people are just behaving anyhow. Even if you deploy road safety, you deploy police, you know that most of the time people don't behave, but just deploy soldier immediately. so that's it. You will see how everybody would behave. I also think maybe it's because of our long years of military in politics. You know, we have been militarized. They said that fear of military, all right, is still there. As against, we should be doing the right thing. And that's one of the lessons that I think you have to take from Muhammadu Buhari. He says that he wanted to live that simple life. He believed that this is the thing that we should be doing. This is the right thing we should be doing, as against being situation whereby we are being compelled to do it.
All right, thank you very much. Now let's look at him. President Buhari served under Abacha as the chairman, Petroleum Trust Development Fund, the PTDF. How will you assess his performance during that time? Would you say he did well?
I think history will be kind to him if you go back to when he was chairman of the Petroleum Trust Fund, PTDF. In fact, during the campaign in 2015, a lot of reports were made concerning what he did. Again, don't also forget, Abacha being a corrupt person, allegedly, whether we like it or not.
Allegedly?
but the facts are there.
Okay.
In the sense that if you look at the regime, there were a lot of allegations. Abacha also was looking for someone
trustworthy
that he could trust. That because again, when you talk about Petroleum Trust Fund, a lot of money were coming in. So you need to set up certain funds that will take care of certain things. And you remember the Petroleum Trust Fund, funds from that trust fund were channeled to roads, constructions, scholarships, and so on and so forth. He was looking for someone that can manage that thing, manage the trust fund. He was looking for someone that is strongly believe that will not be corrupted, who is disciplined with money, and he found no other person. So that tells you the kind of person he is, his personal life. And I'm sure today, if you go back and check some of the achievements, the successes recorded under PTDF, a lot were recorded under Muhammadu Buhari when he was chairman of PTDF. So again, that tells you that his lifestyle, he just wants to do the right thing. He doesn't want to be corrupted. He wants to remain a disciplined man and focus. So give me an assignment. Let me just do my assignment and go. Imagine someone who is chairman of the Petroleum Trust Fund. Imagine the kind of money, imagine the kind of contracts that is going to be awarded. And this was during other military regime that nobody is no really checks and balances. Again, I stand to be corrected. Only few politicians, only few politicians that you will see that will have that kind of opportunity, and still with all the temptation. Because I'm sure even ordinary councillors, ordinary local government chairmen that we have today, give them opportunity to serve. You will see how they will mess up the whole place, embezzle the whole money, take care of their siblings, their kids. But here was a man who was even chairman PTDF with all the opportunity, awarding contracts and so on and so forth. Yet he focused on the job and did not think of embezzling any money. I think you cannot fault that such personality and lifestyle.
Okay, thank you very much. While you were talking, you said allegedly that Abacha was said to be corrupt and all that, and such a man that we are attesting to that was not corrupt, worked under yet did not get himself corrupted. Only few individuals can have such personality. Okay, all right, it's time for us to go for a short break. But before we do that, I would like that you respond to this. During the 2015, when President Buhari was coming to contest for the presidency, people were raising a lot of issues about violation of human rights and all of that. And he assured that it's going to be a different thing. It's a democratic government, not the military regime. What's your view on this generally? Do you think that there was no element of militarization, there was no element of forcefulness, there was no element of what we were saying happened in the other regime? Yeah.
Maybe because of break, because if we open this box now, maybe we should go
then,
break.
Okay, just hold on.
All right.
Okay, just hold it. Let's take this short break. We'll be right back. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Your favorite weekend breakfast show, Weekend Diary on Nta Ado Ekiti, your choice station, is now repackaged, repositioned, and reinvigorated to serve you better. Weekend Diary is informative, educative, and entertaining. It is out to add colors to your weekend. The captivating program comes up every Saturday. Time 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. on Nta Ado Ekiti Channel 5. You can also join us on Start Times Channel 103 or on Facebook Nta Ado Ekiti. For advertisement and sponsorship, please visit the Nigerian Television Authority in Ilawe Road, Ado Ekiti. You can call Samuel on 0706 297 05. Weekend Diary, your ever-pleasing weekend breakfast show.
Science of Ekiti.
All right, thank you very much and welcome back from that break. If you just joined us, the program is still Weekend Diary on NTA Channel 5 Ado Ekiti, and we're talking lessons from President Buhari's legacies. Before we went for that break, I asked my guest, Asiwaju Oladimeji, about the democratic part of President Buhari. Would you say that totally there was no militarization, there was no element of forcefulness or coercion, so to say, while he was a democratically elected president?
Okay, so
just like we say that a soldier is always a soldier, would you say that there was none of such, like no violation of human rights and all of those?
Okay, so he was not the first former Minister of State.
Yeah.
We had Obasanjo, who in 1999, former retired soldier, contested, won election, and I'm sure the juries is out there concerning Obasanjo. If you want to actually interrogate or analyze his administration as former president, not as former head of state, basically. So there are issues concerning the way and manner he managed the politics, the election of 2007. I'm sure today people see refer to that election as the most fraudulent electoral process in Nigeria. So Muhammad Buhari is not even the first,
military head that transitioned. Yeah.
Don't also forget, before he also won the election, he contested 3 times. He contested in 2003. He contested in 2007. I think he contested in 2011, and he lost in
those 3 times.
They now contested, I think, the 4th time in 2015. Then he won the election, and I'm sure that was a particular folder where he was asked, that, oh, you are military, former military, are we sure that you are going to respect
rule of law?
Rule of law.
Yeah.
Taking into consideration the issue that happened under his administration, where under military rule is by decree. I give an example of Diko that time. Apart from Diko that was, kidnapped from UK, we also had a lot of politicians that were, locked up, and they were charged on different corrupt practices. Some of them were locked up, some of them were in prisons, and so on and so forth. So there was this fear that I wish sure that if you become elected president, I wish you will not go back to those dark days whereby it will be by decree. And don't also forget, interestingly, that I remember during that campaign period, I remember the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, I think during one of his campaign in Lagos, he was saying, oh, do you want to vote for someone who will kidnap people, who will arrest people, who will jail people? Is that how to fight corruption? So again, it was also a conversation. And even also, you also recall, even some of the people in PDP that time, they were also afraid that if they lose this election, even Jonathan himself said it, if you remember that period, that if they lose the election, that a lot of his people will be arrested, they will be jailed, and they will not go through the normal rule of law. So there was this fear about whether he will subject himself to the dictate of democratic ethics, tenets, and so on and so forth. So to answer that, I think to a large extent you have to give it to him. In fact, even there was a time he was interviewed, and he said something that is happening. If the other military would have just given the decree. But we said, but right now, I cannot do that because one, I have to do certain things. I have to take it back to the National Assembly to pass the budget. I need to subject myself to certain things. So he had no option, because if you have professed that you are contesting under democratic administration, that means that you have to subject yourself to democratic rules, tenets, and ethos. So I think to a large extent, if you want to interrogate his administration, whether he subjected himself or his administration to those democratic rules, I think to a large extent you have to give it to him. And I'll give instances. We had so many by-elections during his administration, whereby even opposition won election. In fact, after winning the election, they even go to Villa to go and even meet him. So it was this is again, I want to speak to his lifestyle. He doesn't believe that because he's the city president and he's the ruling party, then they must win all the elections. Unlike the scenario that you had under Obasanjo, you cannot compare the two. Under Obasanjo, it is do or die affairs. He even proclaimed it that wherever he want PDP to win that time, they must win at all costs. But here is a man that, because of his lifestyle, he does not believe in the need to say that because we are the ruling party, if there's any by or off-cycle election, then we must go there and we must win at all costs. So during his regime, he gave room for people to express in terms of election. And again, don't forget, election and electoral process is a bedrock of any democracy. If you take the people's right of choosing whom they want away from any democracy, it's no longer a democracy. So you can say that during his administration, we had elections whereby opposition were even winning. In fact, they even appreciate him for providing a level for not intervening, for not. So and we saw that. So again, you must give in to him on that. He also subjected himself to a lot of, he has to go to National Assembly. Even there was a time he went to National Assembly. I'm sure you recall that particular incident. He was supposed to present a budget, and they were mocking him. I'm sure the video surfaced again. I had never seen where a president as powerful as that, even that was under Saraki, and you remember the tussle between the executive and the National Assembly during that period. He was supposed to present budget, and they started mocking him, they started shouting, and all he said was that, he said, and I could said, if truly we are honorable senators and House of Rep, let us behave as well. So that is kind of man that we had in terms of whether he subjected himself to democratic rules and anything. I only, for me, and also if you also look at the electoral reforms that we had 2023 election, you could see that even during the primary election of his own political party, he did not. He could have acted. He could have. You see, I always tell people that there are so many. It's a matter of contradiction. There are so many things that you can say negative about him, but we also see so many positive things about him also. I know for a fact, if an incumbent governor is leaving office, he wants to impose who will succeed him. Obasanjo did it. When Obasanjo was leaving, we had people that want to become president. Obasanjo insisted that it must be Yar'Adua, even when there are issues or questions around Yar'Adua, and so on and so forth. But here was a man who had all the opportunity to say, this is the person I want to succeed me as president. But here is a man, even during the primary election, he said, no, all of you, go to the field. He did not, even when there was a lot of, if you recall, after that primary election, El-Rufai was interviewed at Channels. El-Rufai said, as at few hours of the primary, all the governors went back to him and said, in our state, when we are living, we always look for someone who will succeed, who will continue our legacy. And they said, okay, this is the person that we want, and then we ensure that we activate all political machineries to make sure that person wins, whether by all means. You have do the same thing. He said, till 10 minutes, he did not intervene. He did not call anybody and say, this is the person that I want. So you could see that is the kind of person he is. He did not impose. I say this, you hardly see any politician that will behave in that manner. I'm sure you have a lot of examples, of politicians, former governors, and then immediately they impose. You just see crisis between the previous governor and the person that he imposed. And so we have examples here and there.
They are out there for us
again, here is a man that said, no, let the primary take its place. Wherever he emerge. Again, after his own party produced the current president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, people thought that he will use all this influence, all the power that he had to ensure that Bola wins, whether they will rig or not. But interestingly, this president lost Katsina to Atiku. He did not even deliver. So you can just imagine, he could have said, no, if I'm going to lose anywhere, not my own state, I must ensure that we rig the election and ensure that Bola Ahmed Tinubu, my party wins in Katsina State. A sitting president, it's rare. It's such personality. I think before we see some personality, it will take a lot of while. He lost his own state. Atiku won Katsina. Just like that, he's a sitting president. In fact, people who were even saying that he was even working against Tinubu, if you go back that period, because that was when we had the cash, Emefiele's policy on the cashless policy. And you could imagine even the candidate of his own political party was even complaining about that policy. He don't take his mind though. He believed at that time that money will be used to influence the election. And he does not want money to be used. So if this cashless policy will be the solution whereby you people will not be able to have enough. And if you recall, during that period, I'm sure you are observers as a reporter, you went to the field. Process find it difficult to even get money to give to voters on the election. I'm sure the reports are there. They find it difficult. That's why the process outside define another means maybe okay, we'll do transfer and so on and so forth. He believed that okay, if we implement this cashless policy, politicians, even when some people believe that it's a target that was meant to target his own candidate. He said no. If this would mean that we are going to have a free, fair, credible election,
let it be so.
And if you see the result of that election, even the current president lost his own state. He could have said no. And Bola, don't worry, you are there for me when I needed you. You moved mountains. So during my own time too, I will use all the. He's a sitting president. Somebody did it before. Obasanjo did it before. He could have said no matter what, but at worst case level, they're not good. So if you are saying his life is administration as a democratic, I'm sure if he happened to be a military rule, he would have used decree. But he subjected himself to those democratic ethos and tenets to the extent that we had an election whereby even in his own state, he lost the presidential election to the opposition political party. What more can you say? So when people say that, oh, did he subject himself? Nobody is perfect. So I'm not saying. The only issue, the only comment that I think I have was the way and manner the NSAS issue was managed. Because I felt that was the only time he had to deploy military into a situation whereby military was not the solution to that. So maybe again, the military didn't leave him at that particular point, and you cannot blame him also. You understand? But because again, you know, there were a lot of criticism that these were peaceful protesters while deploying soldiers. So I think that was the only, for me, that's my personal opinion, by the way, where I felt that he dropped the ball. Because again, if you look at, apart from that, every time that he had issues, he subjected himself to democratic rules and so on and so forth.
All right, thank you. Let's also look at his anti-corruption crusade. You know, while he was coming on board, so many corrupt politicians were afraid that this man will come and expose us and he's not going to spare anybody. But do you think he really did as much as Nigerians expected? We were expecting, at the time, people were saying that this man is too quiet. On issues that demand that you act immediately, he would lay back and not act and all that. Do you think maybe that he was being diplomatic or showing more wisdom than we think we know? Then let's start from the anti-corruption crusade. Do you think he did as much as we expected? We were expecting that the integrity man is coming, that all of those people who have embezzled will be yes, but
okay. So I was telling someone, I said one of the problems that I think we have as Nigerians, we believe that our problem can be solved by one man. And I think we should also be careful as we build towards 2027 again, because I'm seeing certain things around that conversation also. Our problem is systemic. When you have a structural problem, one man cannot come and solve that structural problem, right? Now, so when it comes to the anti-corruption crusade, yes, there were times that you saw him move. I'll give an example. Babashi Lawal. Babashi Lawal was alleged to have embezzled 200 million in cutting grants. Though it took him a very long time before he acted, which some of us criticize. Because we believe that there are a lot of evidence to show that this man ought to have been removed as SGF at that time. But especially he did let him go. But again, don't also forget, it's for one thing for the president to say, okay, the law, take your course. This man, embezzle, go and face. At that point, it is no longer under his purview. He is not the judiciary. So people must understand certain things. In other words, that was why he was saying that under military rule, he could have issued a decree. They could have picked Babashi Lawal and lock him somewhere to serve as deterrence. But under democratic rule, he can't do that. He must subject himself to democratic rule. And that means that we have structural problem. Structural problem in the sense that if the president say, okay, I don't want this man, he is corrupt, or you have to take him to the court. But you also know that we had a lot of even corrupt practices that is even going on in the judiciary. You understand? So even within EFCC itself, for them to even prosecute a case successfully, there are a lot of corrupt practices also. So if you are looking for a one-man solution, that means that we have to perish the idea of having a democracy. Because our problem is
back to the military.
When I go back to military,
have decree,
or you go back to what we call a benevolent dictator, like what you have in Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore, whereby they will have to find a way to suspend certain laws, constitution, whereby they be able to treat those who are. But if you have to go through that route, then there's going to be another problem again. So I think if you're talking about his assessment as anti-corruption, yes, a lot of balls were dropped. Not because
He doesn't
have the will. He doesn't want to do it. But certain things are beyond his office. When you get somebody arrested, you expect the police, right, to do the investigation, get a very solid evidence upon that solid evidence, then charge that person to court. Then you expect the court to do the needful. All of those things are not within his purview. So does he want to do the right thing? Again, we've talked about his lifestyle. You cannot question his personality, whether he's corrupt or not. But the fact remains that to fight corruption in Nigeria goes beyond one man.
Okay, because of our time, maybe quickly, there are certain policies that like the school feeding, the conditional cash transfers, and all of that. Would you say they were successful?
Okay. So again, similar to the last question of corruption and those stuff. So again, some of these programs were even programs in conjunction between the federal and the state government. We talk about, because of time, we talk about the issue of governors on their own part. Some of those ones come from the federal, released to the state, allow the states to run the program. The feeding program was not implemented by the federal government. The feeding program was implemented by the state. The federal government only provides the necessary support, which he did. Do you know how many states that he gave bill at that time? You know, at the point in time, some state governments were finding it difficult to even pay salary. I think time will not do justice to so many things. Maybe when we come back some other time, we will talk about how he tried his best, right? But again, the best, of course, was not enough. And again, whether you like it or not, the buck stops on his table.
Well, because of our time, I think we are going to stop here because of our time, but I don't think we have really touched all of the
1 hour is not enough to dissect.
My producer, my guest said 1 hour is not enough for this program.
Maybe we should have part 2.
Okay, we're going to have a part 2 of this discussion. I want to say you have really done well. All of the analysis, all of the angles you have brought to the person of President Muhammadu Buhari. Thank you for at least saying some good things about him. I know you have some reservations. Maybe when we have a part 2, then we can do justice to that. All right. Thank you very much. My guest has been Mr. Asiwaju Oladimeji. When I call Asiwaju, I'm feeling I'm calling President Bola Tinubu. Okay, Oladimeji. Okay, thank you for coming on Weekend Diary again.
You're welcome.
All right. Up next on the program this morning is Sports Desk. We'll be right back.
Members of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Nta Ado Ekiti State Council, have taken to the football pitch in an inter-chapel football match. The match, which was decided at the Ball and Ball at Nta Ado Ekiti, was an avenue for men of the fourth estate of the realm to relieve stress associated with profession in fun-filled and relaxation atmosphere. The innovative match involving Team Ojomoyela and Team Shamo was full of fun as the journalists gave good accounts of themselves of their ability to play the rounded game, as the match ended 3-2 in favor of the Team Ojomoyela. Former member of the House of Representatives, Bimbo Daramola, who performed the kickoff of the innovative game, commended NUJ leadership in the state for the initiative, saying it will enhance the physical and mental health of the men of the fourth estate of the realm. The Nigerian men's table tennis team has reclaimed their crown at the 2025 International Table Tennis Federation African West Regional Championships held in Lagos State. The team delivered a dominant performance, sweeping Cote d'Ivoire 3-0 in the final. The Nigerian women's team also retained their title, continuing their regional dominance with a flawless run after defeating Benin Republic, Ghana and Guinea to emerge victorious. The Nigerian women's basketball team, the Tigers, will begin preparations for the 2025 Women's Afro Basket Championship this weekend in Abuja. Led by head coach Rena Wakama, the Tigers will head into the tournament as defending champions, aiming to clinch the 5th consecutive Afro Basket title. That is on sports. I'm Ayode Jogunshaki, NTA News.
All right, thank you very much, Ayode Jogunshaki, for that sports update. And that does it for us on this week's episode of the program Weekend Diary on Nta 25 Ado Ekiti. Please remember that this program happens every Saturday, 9:30 a.m. and we're also live on our YouTube and Facebook, Nta Ado Ekiti Live. You can find all our programs on our pages on YouTube and also Facebook. My name is Amaka Igwe. I thank you very much for always choosing to stay with us on this program every Saturday. Let's do this again next week, Saturday, 9:30 a.m. Good morning and happy weekend. See you next week.
Nta Ado Ekiti is the station people want to associate with. We move along to various